Hello, good evening, everyone. And it's great to have you all back on another session with ISC2 Colombo chapter. A very interesting topic today. We're going to be talking about unmanned aerial vehicles, the uses, the good side of it, the bad side of it, the regulations and various other aspects. So we would, as usual, we would have our speaker present the topic, and thereafter we would have a discussion around this subject. So welcome again for this session, and I would like to warmly welcome our eminent speaker, Chirath Dealwis, a practice manager with John Keels Holdings PLC. Got a lot of experience in cybersecurity, has worked with global organizations, and he readily agreed to come on board and talk about unmanned aerial vehicle. Chirath, thank you so much for making time to be here with us and talk about this emerging technology that some countries have adopted extensively. We need to understand, okay, what does this space hold for us in Sri Lanka or the region? Over to you, Chirath.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Sujit. Let me share my screen. I hope you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Chirath, we are able to see the screen. So Chirath, allow me a minute. For those people who are in attendance right now, I would like you to change your names as you would like to be recognized for your CPEs. First names, code names are very difficult for me to comprehend. So if you could have your full name as you would like your CPEs to be lodged, it'd be great. I'd appreciate that. And in the meantime, any questions you have, you can keep posting them in the chat. Chirath, over to you.
Okay, thank you. So like we discussed, and like Sujit said, today we'll be talking about digital forensics investigations in unmanned aerial vehicles, or rather we call it as drones. So first of all, we need to understand what is a drone. Drone is basically an aircraft that is controlled by a remote host. So the host or the person who is controlling that vehicle can remotely control the aircraft. Such vehicles are called unmanned aerial vehicles. So now let's look into the popularity of UAVs. Like you can see in this image, there's a huge demand and huge use of UAVs in modern day society. We use these drones for various purposes, like from transportation and for various other civil engineering projects. Likewise, we have a whole lot of users of these UAV or these unmanned aerial vehicles. But adversaries use the same technology to commit crimes. And here are some of the illegal uses or activities used using these UAVs. Some of these are drug delivery, weapon delivery, and multiple invasions of privacy. And nowadays, we also have military use of these drones as well. And here are some of the latest news that you can see with related to the use of drones as criminal activities, or rather as a tool to commit crimes. So the easiest example or the closest example that we can see is related to Ukraine war, where the Ukrainian 15-year-old Ukrainian used his drone to gather surveillances and share that with the military against their war with the Russian army. And these are the latest use of military UAVs. Now we have fully stealth drones, which means these drones are capable of evading or flying under the radar without even getting detected by the radar system. And in the right hand side, you can see these are the top military drones we have in 2022. So by just looking at these figures and these images, you can see there's a huge demand towards the use of drones in both ethical and unethical purposes. Therefore, it is vital to understand the use of forensic investigations against this technology. So now with that, let's move into the evidence. So when it comes to, before I explain this, I need to add a little bit more about forensics. When it comes to learning forensics, basically you need to answer to 4 questions. If you can answer to these 4 questions, then you can learn any type of digital forensics domain. Those are, first question is what data is available? And second question is where is it available? And third one is how to extract it. And finally, how to view that data. So if you can answer to these 4 questions, you can learn any type of forensics like mobile forensics, drone forensics, autonomous vehicle forensics, and IoT forensics, any forensics domain. So with that in mind, let's move to the evidence we have in drones. So physical evidence in drone, basically the main or primary evidence is the aircraft itself. So this aircraft will have a special memory chip in certain models. And we have the camera attached into the drone. This device, the camera, the availability of camera may be vary based on the use of the drone, because sometimes we customize these drones to cater to various requirements. So in that case, that particular device that we attach into the drone might contain some vital evidence when it comes to forensic investigations. Other than that, we have battery, mobile device, and radio controller. And sometimes we use Wi-Fi as the communication platform between the ground controlling unit and the aircraft. So in that case, we have Wi-Fi range extenders only for certain models, because based on the capacity of the drone, the use of the technology may be varied. And sometimes we will use laptops. In that case, we will some of the vital information will be also available in the laptop itself. And this is a picture of Phantom 4 drone. This presentation I created out of a research that I conducted on Phantom 4. So most of the content is related to Phantom 4 drone, but it is not limiting into the Phantom 4. It will contain a lot basic theories across multiple various models in UAV. So normally in a drone, we have various components. So here you can see the controlling unit. So what we do is basically, if you need to fly this aircraft or take off this aircraft, first you need to connect your mobile device into this controlling unit. So here you can see the Wi-Fi antennas, and this is the battery. Here you can see the battery, and we have various cables to power on this controlling unit, and we have the main aircraft as well. Normally, if you need to take off your drone, first thing that you need to do is you need to connect your mobile device into this controlling unit and pair your mobile device with the drone. So for that, we use a special application developed by the manufacturer of that drone. This model is developed by DJI. So for this one, they have developed a DJI application to pair the device with the aircraft. So after pairing the device, we can take off the drone and we can fly. And now you can see some CPUs and operating systems available in UAVs. Most of these modern UAVs have various operating systems. We can divide these operating systems into open source and commercial. And some of these commercial operating systems are basically proprietary, meaning that they are not sharing their operating system with others. And some of the open source operating systems will be used by the drone customizing companies. In Sri Lanka also, we have a company. What they do is basically they customize their drones to cater to various requirements by foreign companies. So in that case, what they do is they customize these open source operating systems when they develop their own drones. So now with that information, let's move to data acquisition. So in the data acquisition, like we discussed earlier, the primary evidence will contain in the aircraft. Other than that, we also have the application, mobile application that we connect to the controlling unit. It will also contain some information. So in some models of drones, in the aircraft itself has a secondary memory. Normally what we do is if we think about a videography or photography related drone, a normal commercial drone, then in that case we can insert a memory chip that will capture and save the footages from the camera. So in that case, other than the secondary memory that we attach into the drone aircraft will have a separate hidden memory chip as well. Most of the modern drones will glue that memory chip into the board, so normal users will not be able to access it. And so in that case, if you need to access that particular data, what you need to do is you need to mount that particular drone. So to mount that drone, you need to basically connect the drone directly into your laptop, investigator's laptop, and you can use a separate application. In this case, DJI Assistant 2 was developed for the Phantom model. So here you can see this is a use of mounting the aircraft into the directly into the investigator's laptop. Once you connect, you can access that secondary memory, primary memory, and it contains some vital information. Okay. Other than that, we use the application that we connect to the that is available in the mobile device. So that app will also contain some valuable information. So here, this is a picture of that hidden memory that was glued into the board. So if your model that you have to investigate has something like this, then you need to remove that memory and you need to further investigate that. Excuse me. Okay. So other than that, you need to acquire evidence from the mobile device itself. So to do that, you can connect your mobile device. You can do mobile forensics. So if you have something like Apple iTunes, then you can connect your device mobile device through iTunes and you can access the logs. So when you access your mobile application, it will look like this. So this is the folder structure that DJI is maintaining for the drones. So here you can see a lot of valuable stuff is there. But in this case, we only focus on the logs and flight logs. So these flight logs will contain a lot of information. And later in this slide, we'll talk about what are the data that we can see from these flight logs. So now we know what data is available, and now we know how to extract that. And now it's all about reading the data and doing the analysis. So basically, we have different formats of data mainly the primary evidence that we take in investigations in UAV is the flight record. Flight record contains the flight path and footages and various other information. So flight record is available in the app. The flight records available in the app is available under TXT format, and flight records available in the drone is available under DAT file. So the file format is DAT for the drone. Flight records available in the drone. And there's another thing to note, that is basically the same flight log is available in both aircraft and the app that we use in our mobile device. Other than that, we have GPS information. It depends, the availability of that data is depend based on the configuration we have in our camera or our media recorder. Meaning that in your camera, if you turn on GPS or location tracking, then you can see GPS information available in the media, available with the media files. Other than that, we have the pictures and video footages that captured from the camera that is mounted into the aircraft. Other than that, we have the physical devices. This physical device will also contain some various information like serial number, version number, battery, and lot of other things. Why we need that is because for various cases, we need to understand the manufacturer and which country this particular device was manufactured, especially if that incident is related to international criminal activity. Okay, so this information will also be vital in various scenarios. And now let's talk about return to home. In drones, we have something called return to home. It was mainly developed because when you are flying your drone, in case if something goes wrong, then this drone or the aircraft needs to securely come back to the home point or the point that this aircraft was take off. So to do that, we have three main types of return to home. First one is fail-safe return to home. Second one is smart return to home. And finally, we have low battery return to home. First, I'll talk about smart return to home. That is the normal return to home option. If you need to bring back your drone into the operator, then what you need to do is basically you need to click on the return to home button. Once you press the return to home button, your aircraft will come back to the ground point and will hover in the home point. Here I'm talking about home point. Home point is the point where this aircraft was take off. When you take off a particular aircraft, the location will be recorded inside the drone. So that will mark as the home point. And when we do the return to home, normally the drones will return back to the home point where the drone was take off. And fail-safe return to home means basically if the controller loses the control over the drone, then the drone, the aircraft can detect that with a very limited time. And what it will do is it will try to connect back to the controlling unit. And if it can't control, if it can't connect back to the controlling unit, then it will do a return to home, meaning that it will try to land to the nearest safest location. And finally, we have low battery return to home. That means if aircraft can't come back to the home point, meaning that if the battery is not sufficient enough to return back to the home point, then in that case, periodic warnings will be given to the drone operator. But if the drone operator didn't care about those notifications, then at some point drone will land to the nearest safe location. That is what we call the low battery return to home. So if the drone or the aircraft lands to a different location or lost due to any obstacle, then in that case we have another option given by the DJI, that is what we call the Find My Drone. Find My Drone, what it does is basically you have in your app, you have the ability to press that Find My Drone. When you click on that, the aircraft will keep sending a beacon notification with the sound. It will broadcast that, and from that noise we can identify where the aircraft is available, and also the control unit can locate that location using that beacon. So in that case we can easily detect the drone that was basically lost. So data available inside the flight logs, we have various information like battery status, weather information, flight map. I will show you some logs. So in that application, we can easily see that. So let's skip that. So this is the app that we normally use. Please keep in mind that this is not a forensic app. It was purely built with the purpose of analyzing the crashes for the normal drone operators. So if you are using this app for forensic use, you better do some further analysis and make sure data will not get leaked. And by uploading your evidence flight logs into this kind of third-party apps. Okay. So these are the battery information and notification sent by the aircraft to the ground unit or the controlling unit. So everything will be recorded inside the flight logs. So here you can see home point was recorded. So that means this is the main location where this drone was taken off. And the altitude, return to home altitude is 30 meters, meaning that when this drone will return to home, then what it will do is it will come back to the home point, that is the place where it was taken off, and will hover in above 30 meters height. And it will keep hovering until the operator will take the drone. So we can customize the altitude, return to home altitude and home point as well. And also some modern drones like DJI Phantom 4, they have some obstacle avoidance feature as well. That means when you are flying your drone, if it is capable of detecting some obstacles in its path, and if it detects any obstacle, they can avoid that obstacle as well, like trees. So these are the weather information we can see inside the logs. So these are the cell voltage. You might wonder, why do we need to worry about the cell voltage? This is very informative. Why is because sometimes if somebody take off, or basically if we lose our drone, then we might need to do some reverse calculations based on the voltage, and we can detect some power issues that was available in the drone or the aircraft. So this information is very vital. And this is another platform where we can see same notification and cell information. So mainly tools wise, we use Air Data and Phantom Help log weaver to weave these logs. So before I further explain the scenarios, let's look into some of these logs. I hope you can see my screen now. Yeah. You can see a browser, right?
Yes, Chirath,
Yeah,
we
I
can
can
see. Yes.
Okay. So this is the air data portal. You can create your own free account and you can upload your flight logs. Okay. So in the main panel, we can see basic information like the plane name, flight time, and takeoff battery, landing battery, those things. And we can see to which user this drone was registered to and which country it belongs. And here you can see the flight map. So here you can see this is the flight record. So this flight record contains the entire flight map. So you can play that like a video. So here you can see the here you can see H is there. H icon means basically the home point. So this is the place where this drone was taken off. And here in this arrow, you can see the aircraft and the path that aircraft was flew. And the joystick controls how the operator used the joystick. And here in this side, you can see notifications that was sent by the aircraft to the ground controller. So we can see the entire path that this drone was actually flew. And in the same time, we can see a lot of notifications as well. See here, home point was recorded by the aircraft automatically and return to home altitude is 30 meters. So when this drone will land or return home, it will return back to this point. And other than that, we can see power usage and battery information and cell graph. And other battery units and sensors. It has various sensors. The availability of data will be vary based on the model that you have to investigate and the capacities it carries. And controls. You can see whether it has any signal issues or not. And it also contains weather information as well. So there was a research paper that I saw. What they did was basically they did the research on aircrafts. And what they did was basically they created a model, mathematical model, to identify if a particular aircraft got crashed or lose control, and if it enters to sea, then what is the probable area where this aircraft will land. So for that, it uses a very difficult or rather advanced calculation, because we need to understand the weather and the sea current and the drag and gravity. Everything was calculated in their calculation, in their model. So similar thing can be adapted into this aircraft as well. So if we put this information into that calculation, we can see where this drone might be available. This similar thing can be used to identify missing aircrafts like MH370. Other than that, we have media files as well. So these are the media files that was available inside the flight log. So you can see how much information is available inside a flight log. I'm not referring to the media captured by the captured from the media file, or rather memory chip. So these are the information available in the flight record. Each time when you fly your drone or the aircraft, there will be a new flight record created and flight log will be created. So we can use this information to do the investigations. With that, let's proceed with the rest of the slides. And now let's look into some common investigation scenarios that we can typically see in our day-to-day investigations. First thing is illegal or unauthorized data capturing or privacy related data capturing. One scenario is that some drone operators try to capture footage from area 51. So in that case, the potential evidence will be media captured and flight records. So in that case, we as the investigators might have access to the aircraft, and in that case, we can see the media captured from the camera and the flight records. Another example is hijacked drone. If an interceptor intercept into the communication between the ground controlling unit and the aircraft, they can take the full control and they can intercept and they can take full control over the connection. So in that case, primary evidence would be flight records. By looking at the flight records, we might be able to identify what has happened, when it was intercepted, and where it is directing. Another one is GPS signals that we capture from various other sources like radar systems. So these are two devices that normally use for hijacking commercial drones. Usage of drones in high security zones are restricted. So in that case, if you are trying to fly your drone in such locations, then most probably they will use these signal jammers to intercept the connection and take off your drone, take down your drone. Sorry. Another scenario, maybe drone was stolen. So in that case, you have the GPS coordinates, and you can also use the option of find my drone. Another common use of drones is suicide drones. One such example is major Saudi Arabian oil facility was hit by drone attack. Drone. In that case, you might worry like how it is even possible. So in drones, even though the drone or the aircraft is a very small item, we can customize it to carry some weight. And also based on the speed we can fly, the damage it can create is also very high. So we have seen a lot of news related to suicide drones. It's very easy type of attack. So in that case, we have the crash drone, and we can look for some other third-party sources for evidence like radar signals or GPS signals captured by ground station units. Another example is drone crash. If a drone got crashed, then we have access to the crash drone, and we have the flight records in the controller. Now, let's look into the anti-forensics in UAV. So before I explain anti-forensics, let me explain what is anti-forensics. Anti-forensics are the different techniques and tactics used by adversaries to evade or mislead forensic investigators. So they will try to mislead the forensic investigators or try to hide their footprints. I think you know in ethical hacking phases, final stage is covering tracks. So covering tracks is also in line with the anti-forensics. So let's look into various anti-forensics techniques we can see with related to drones. First one is altering timestamp, meaning that before you power on your UAV aircraft, you can change the system time in your device. When you change your system time, then the footages captured by the camera will contain a different timestamp than the app. So that is one way of doing altering the timestamps. So in that case, to investigate such techniques, what you need to do is you need to cross verify the logs. When you check the logs, flight logs, you can see those modifications. Another anti-forensic technique is blocking GPS signals. Before I explain this, let me explain another feature that we have in our drones. In drones, we have something called no-fly zone. No-fly zone is basically created by the drone developers, manufacturers. They created a map, world map, and in that map, they identified critical and high security zones like airports. And what they do is they restrict access into those areas. So that areas are called no-fly zone. So when you try to take off your drone near a no-fly zone, then whether you like it or not, you will not be able to take off your drone. Why is because how it works is basically your drone will have a GPS module. So the GPS module will connect to the satellite, and it will download the GPS map. And in that map, it has the no-fly zone. So if you are trying to take off your drone or trying to entering into a no-fly zone, then the access will be blocked. So to alter that, what we can do is we can block the GPS module. So normally in Phantom 4, the GPS module is available in the top. So what we can do is we can cover this entire area, including the GPS module, using thick foil. When you cover your GPS module, then the drone will not be able to connect with the satellite and get the no-fly zone map. Therefore, you will be able to fly or take off your drone even inside a restricted or no-fly area. So that is another anti-forensics technique that we can see. If you are further interested in this, then you can look into this Forensic Focus and eForensics magazine for more articles. For example, you can go to eForensics magazine and Forensic Focus. Here you can see some of the articles that I actually wrote related to forensics, including drone. And also you can look into eForensics magazine, and you can subscribe to eForensics magazine, and you can get free forensic related magazines as well. So that is the end of my presentation. Now let's discuss on the questions that you have with related to this topic.
Thank you, Chirath. Maybe you can stop the screen share. Right.
Sure.
Let me see. Okay, there is one question from Lokendra. I'm not sure. Yeah, he's got a question here. For suicide drones, to what extent the investigators can trace back and identify the origin or the perpetrators, or it's easy to identify who sent this drone?
That is really good question. So in forensics, the amount of traceback that we can do is purely depend on the availability of data. So in that case, if we have access to the logs from the aircraft, then we can do the reverse engineering and we can identify the home point. So now you know that what is the home point and it is already there in the aircraft. So if we have access to the flight logs, then we know where this drone was taken off and in which direction it actually came. And if we don't have access to the primary evidence, that is flight log, then we need to go for the secondary evidence like radar systems. So if we don't have radar systems, then we need to look into surveillance cameras near that area, or we need to go for tertiary evidence. So there's no direct answer because it purely depends on the availability of the data. And if we have access to the data, then basically we can do the reverse engineering. I hope I have answered to your question.
Yes, Chirath, I think that's a reasonable response, given that if there are evidence available, then you can definitely take it forward and investigate. So I guess Lokendra has a follow-up question as well. Does the drone have specific radio frequency range, or is there a possibility of interference with home appliances?
Yes, there is a possibility of interfering with home appliances because in wireless networks, we have various channels based on the bands that you are using. Like if you're using 5 gigahertz band or 6 gigahertz band or 2.5 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz band, then we have various different channels. So yes, since we are using the same wireless technology used by other devices, there is a possibility of interference. But nowadays, to minimize that interference, we have channel auto configuration in our home wireless networks, where if you think about your home Wi-Fi network, we normally connect that or configure it into auto mode, meaning that if you are using channel number 1 and if your neighbor is using the same channel, then your device will automatically identify that and will change it into a different channel. So that will be there.
So Chirath, I mean, slightly shifting the discussion from the negative side of it, right? When I want to look at the positive aspects of a drone, what does the Sri Lankan laws state in terms of use of drones? Is there a regulation? What is that people need to do if they were to use a drone for experiments? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So yes, so in that case, basically we need to register our aircrafts before we take off. And normally modern aircrafts already get registered when they shipped into Sri Lanka. If not, you need to register your aircrafts. And legal use of it is basically there's no specific law per se to restrict that access, but in Computer Crimes Act, we identify hacking as unauthorized access. So if you are accessing unauthorized territory or unauthorized resource, then it can classify as hacking. So it's a criminal offense.
Right. So what you're saying is the moment a drone gets shipped into Sri Lanka, it by default gets registered. Is that what you're saying?
No, we need to register. Normally, if you think of, yeah, if you are taking off if you are carrying your own drone from a different country, then you need to register under Civil Aviation Authority. If you think about manufacturers or other authorized resellers, when they purchase, once they purchase, they will do the registration for you.
So it'll be registered, and then in other words, it gets tagged to you when it is handed over to you, right?
Yes.
Are there any restrictions currently in force to fly a drone anywhere in Sri Lanka? Are there restricted zones?
Yes. So in no-fly zone map, we have various areas marked, including airports and other various places that was mentioned by the government.
So the Sri Lankan government has already put in place a no-fly zone.
Not the government, Sri Lankan government. In Sri Lanka, what we do is basically
Civil aviation.
We can't expect, yeah. Civil Aviation Authority will declare what are the areas as no-fly zone or restricted areas.
Right.
That will mark inside the no-fly zone map.
Okay, right. So, would you know which industries are using the drones in Sri Lanka? Any thoughts?
Primarily, 90% or more than 90% use for the commercial photography and videography, cinematography. And other than that, we also use various engineering purposes, like calculating the temperature in various devices and taking the measurements in large buildings, and those kind of things we use.
So I'm not sure whether this is a relevant question, but I'm just asking. I mean, our countries, right? I know there are certain countries which have a unit which uses drone for reconnaissance purposes, right? And they use it as part of the national security operations. How advanced are these?
How advanced? Okay, so if you think about commercial military drones, like I've said in the slide, now we have fully stealth drones that can fly under the radar, and we have further customized drones, and we have top 10 military drones as well. That means it's a huge industry, and we can weaponize the drones based on the needs that we have. And even we have a fully stealth drone as well now.
Right. So you said the drones have the capability to operate in stealth mode. So even these drones, though it can be operated in stealth mode, I would assume that it would still go through the regular registration process, isn't it?
Yep.
But if somebody, let's say, for example, if somebody smuggles in, is there a way the law enforcement or the people who have been vested with the authority to monitor the airspace, how would they detect, since stealth mode? So how would it actually be identified? Because it's
If-
a chicken and egg situation, right? You have a technology which is in stealth mode, but then you're trying to secure a land space or a country. What are people doing about it?
So basically your question is, if somebody is using a fully stealth drone, how can we detect that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that case, first let me explain how the stealth drone will work, or how to fly under the radar. So to understand that, we need to understand the radar system. In radar system, what they do is they periodically broadcast an electromagnetic wave, or rather signal, and when it hits to the aircraft surface, and it will reflect back to the ground controlling unit. So when it hits back or reflect the signal back to the ground controlling unit, then we can see there's an item in that open sky. So that is why we have the reflected signal. So that is why if you look into the radar system, you can see the aircraft detected as a and shown as a very tiny spot. And every time you can see the spot is moving. Why? Is because that is the time it takes for the signal to reflect back to the ground controlling unit. So to evade that radar system, what you need to do is you need to basically you have two options when building a stealth drone. First thing is you can build the drone using a material that can absorb the signal rather than reflecting it. In the other hand, you can create the surface in a way that it will reflect more than 180 degrees, meaning that even though the surface will reflect the signal, it will never reach the ground controlling unit. So that is how stealth drones work, or flying under the radar means. And answering to your question, we still use radio frequencies and wireless signals to communicate. So even though radar system can't detect these kind of drones, we can still, if we have the capacity to capture and monitor our wireless signals, then we can detect such drones, because it uses wireless communication mediums.
Absolutely. So I mean, I think I'd like to continue to a question which Vagisha has asked on the same lines, right? So he's talking about how does the session hijacking and sniffing efforts based on the drones can be prevented rather than detecting later from the flight logs. So he's looking at a preventive control rather than, detect and then respond to it later on.
Okay, so basically that question is how to prevent hijacking, right? So the best thing that we can do is we can encrypt the sessions. So if we encrypt the data, it's same thing applies to wireless network. So if we encrypt, then the probability of interception is very limited.
It will require a lot of effort to even break those encryption keys, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
But nowadays, these drones are not specially created or specially manufactured concerning security. So we don't have any encryption in our current drones.
So in other words, what you're saying is, if somebody has the capability, they can read your data in the air.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So which also means somebody can inject into the traffic the data.
Yes, traffic. There's a high possibility
of doing it, and they can also probably read data in terms of the activities which are being performed by the drones.
Yes, and other than hijacking, what they can do is they can use jammers, where they prevent the legitimate signal coming and reaching into the aircraft. So if we can use jammers, then it's very difficult to basically get rid from those jammers.
Interference, right?
Yes.
So that's what it is, right? So we do have a question from Lokendra. Is there a historic records where the GPS functionality compromised and able to fly in the no-fly zone?
Yes. Historic records means basically this image that I shown to you was actually an experiment that I did with one of my fellow colleagues. So it's possible, and we tested it out, and we were able to fly our drone even near airport runaway. Normally, it's a restricted area, and we tested that out without having that foil, a thick foil, and we were unable to take off our drone. But after covering that GPS module, we were able to fly that. So it was tested by myself.
So there exists a risk. There is a
Yes.
risk. Okay. Then Vagisha again has another question. What are the global rules and regulations when having cross-border flights?
It is a very tricky question, I would say. Why is because basically it depends on the country that you are.
Correct. So just to probably to invoke a thought process here, if it is a commercial operation, and I would assume that it would follow all the aviation rules cross-border. But if it is a spying activity or a reconnaissance activity, right? I mean, if one country is trying to invade another country or trying to figure out what's happening in the other side of the border, then there may not be any rules at all. They'll break every possible rule, right? And Damit has a question. What about the use of drones in agriculture sector?
That is actually a good question. Though Sri Lanka is not using drones for other sectors, there's a high possibility of using drones for agriculture. Especially in US, they use drones to for various aspects in the agriculture sector, including monitoring the health of their trees or rather plants, and continuously monitor that. And also we can further customize it for spreading fertilizer as well. So in that case, you don't need to physically go and do spread fertilizer.
So I'm told, right? I mean, that people are using drones in their agricultural farms in Sri Lanka, right? So that they're also using to inspect, to identify any noticeable infections. So it has a camera mounted, so it just flies, it identifies, and you can even go and treat the plant precisely where the infection is rather than spraying all over the place, right? So I guess there are a large amount of use which can be put into use. Guys, I mean, rather than you typing, why don't you unmute and ask the question so we make it more interactive, right? Tarindu has a question. What is the effective height range of normal radars?
That is basically depend on the type of radar we have. So it has different models. So based on the model, the range is different.
All right. Rosiru, may I request you to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Hello, Chirath.
If you like, you can, open your camera as well so that we can see your face.
Sadly, there is a power cut right now.
All right. Okay, go ahead. As a question.
So earlier, Chirath mentioned that the drones, when Vagisha asked, like, how are we going to prevent these sniffing attacks from happening? He mentioned that these drones are not specifically made with much security in mind. So if that is so, if a business or an industry were to adopt the usage of drones for legitimate business activities, of course, what are the steps that they can take to harden the security of the drones that they plan on using?
So basically, it is in line with the previous answer that I gave. So basically what you need to do is you need to encrypt your connection, and you need to create an encrypted tunnel with the controlling unit and the aircraft. So that is why though commercial use drones like DJI drones don't have any security on it, we have separate organizations and companies who are specializing on customizing those drones, catering to various other requirements. So in that case, they are capable of modifying and adding security or considering security when they customize those drones. But in commercial normal drones, you can't see that, yeah, because their primary goal is not security.
Amal, can you ask your question?
Hi, Sujit. I think my question also was answered just now in terms of the modification or customization that is possible.
Right.
I know one organization that is located in Orion City, Demaragoda. They are specialized in customizing drones.
Okay. So in other words, right, I mean, if you were to look at a standard hardware, software, operating system, I guess if we are to use drones for commercial purposes, that also should have a structured framework, right? The hardening, the prerequisite, the security aspects of it, availability aspects, and then also looking at the compliance side of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any other questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, one question. So Chirath, a couple of minutes ago, I think one of the other members asked, has there been a history of GPS being overridden? This GPS being overridden, should it be done by physically with physical access to the drone, or can it be done remotely? Remotely in the sense that you're controlling the drone, right? It's reaching a no-fly zone, so it'll automatically move away. But can someone else, maybe not the, like some other threat actor, or maybe even unknowingly some person testing, can they access the drone, or how do you call this? Maybe intercept the drone or access the drone remotely and modify the settings? So
modify,
not at the military level, at like the normal commercial, like commercial users. So can they modify those settings and either take it under their control or remove the restriction, and then you go into the no-fly zone without knowing it?
Okay, yeah. It is, yes, it is possible to take full control over the drone and take full control and operate the drone after intercepting. And when it comes to GPS, to block the GPS module, basically you need to have physical access to the drone, because you need to block the physical GPS module accessing the satellite and getting the no-fly zone log, I mean the map.
So I think
Right.
I read the question in two parts, right? One which you answered, right? If the question is, can somebody replace the GPS data? So there are data which probably resides on the unit itself, the vehicle itself, and then probably the server, the backend. So
yeah, it's possible. There's a possibility of intercepting and basically changing the GPS signals as well, because same thing, right? It's also applying using the wireless signal. So there's a high possibility of intercepting and changing the GPS data as well. But the level of skills that you need is bit high compared to other criminal activities that you can do. So the level of understanding and the skills that you need to intercept such level of such level of
what you're
interception.
saying is an expert who is very knowledgeable, experienced, will be able to break in and do the
Yes.
damage. Right. So in other words, what we're also saying is we need to understand the weaknesses and the threat actors and build defenses to overcome the weakness so that you can protect the drones. Any other questions, Chairman? Erica, do you want to ask any questions? Damit?
In the case of a malfunction or like a drone gets taken over by a threat actor and then it's damaged, and someone investigates the log files, how would this may be a hypothetical case, or maybe there may be no proper structure, but how would that responsibility, who would that responsibility fall on? Would it fall on the original owner, or would it be taken under law enforcement to investigate? When I say malfunction, it could be maybe a drone was going in no-fly zone and it crashed or something. Or in the case of, say, some intercept or some software issue that it becomes uncontrollable and causes damage, then who would, not in the sense like, how would the investigation process handle for a drone?
So I would take your question as two parts. So first thing is, if the drone got crashed due to a malfunctioning, then you can talk to the manufacturer. That I know in DJI they have customer support, and what they need is they will ask you to submit your logs, flight records, and they will do the analysis for you. But if there's an interception, intentional interception by criminal activities, criminal actors, then in that case you can go for forensic investigation. Or if you have the capability, then you can do your own investigation. But the admissibility of your evidence will be questioned in the court, because in forensics it's like this: you can become your own lawyer, right, in a court case, but it will get questioned. That is why if you are planning to move into forensics domain, you need to maintain a good reputation, because otherwise people can question that, oppositions can question that and take down your reports.
So in essence, what you're saying is the forensics investigators should be qualified and they need to demonstrate independence and also prove and the process that the evidence collected has not been tampered with, that they are able to recreate a number of times the same results from the source. That's
let me take one simple example. Let's say Dumidu. Okay. So let's say Dumidu carried out the investigation, and Dumidu went to DEF CON conference last December, for example. Okay. So if I'm the opposition lawyer, what I can do is, if I know that news, if I know that, then I will ask 3 or 4 questions. My first question will be, have you visited any country in December? It's very tricky dealing with lawyers. Okay. So Dumidu will definitely say, yes, he went to Singapore, US. And my second question will be, why did you went to that country? Then he will say, I attended to a conference called DEF CON. Then my third question will be, what is DEF CON conference and who are the attendees, normal attendees for that conference? So he will say DEF CON is related to say data cyber security trends and techniques, and security professionals and hackers. Professional hackers will participate to that conference. So in that, with that answer, I can counter argue with the judge, and I can ask judge saying that basically if he associated with criminals, then a report created by such professionals what is the admissibility? So the admissibility of that report is in doubt. So that is why, to prevent that, what we need to do is, as forensic investigators, we always need to maintain a good reputation, and also we need to stick with the best practices. That is why we are paying a lot of money on using anti-static bags, Faraday storage kits, and various other devices and tamper-proof bags and write blockers, forensic duplicators, ensuring that there's no modification happen to the original data. So if you use best practices and if you maintain a good reputation, then the reports created by you will hardly get questioned. And even though your question will get, if your report get questioned, then what can happen is basically you, the court or the judge can go for a expert witness. We have two types of witness. First one is called technical witness, and second one is called expert witness. Technical witness is the person who created the report. In that case, you as the investigator will present as the technical witness. And if there's an admissibility issue, then court can go for another expert witness, that is a third party that has the same level of knowledge and expertise or higher profile than you. What he will do is he will go through with the report and the practices that you maintain and check the admissibility of your report. And he can, as a third party, he will provide his feedback. So if he say the admissibility is okay, then judge will take your report into the account.
Right. Any other questions you'd like to ask Chirath, or any your thoughts? You may want to share a thought. Not necessarily you got to ask a question. Maybe you can also express a view. Upul, Amal, Damet. Everybody is quiet. Rusiru, do you want to share any thoughts? Umudu, Dumidu, I'm not taking attendance, but I'm just calling out to all of you. Vagisha, Lokendra, Marshan. Right. Looks like, of course, Romesh, any thoughts? Erica? Okay, since there are no questions or no opinions to be expressed, Chirath, your closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts is basically we need to always keep up to date with the latest trends because as forensic investigators, we are always one step below from the attackers. Why? Is because they can use the latest technology and they have the freedom to use that technology to commit crimes. But when it comes to forensic, we need to be really careful. If you are coming into forensics domain, please do a lot of research, and because in forensics is not a particular domain. I'm not discouraging, I'm just taking ensuring that you will get the criticality of that this domain, because there's no room to try and test, because if you do a modification, then nobody will be able to conduct further investigation and create reports. And always keep up to date, because we will see a lot of use of latest emerging technologies by the adversaries to commit their crimes.
Absolutely. Chirath, thank you so much for taking time. And I want to thank you again for accepting my invitation without any hesitation, right? You said the moment I asked, you said, yes, I will do it. And I really appreciate it. And I've been hearing from, at least Akila had mentioned that, that the session was very informative and very useful. And I'm sure everybody who has attended this session will feel the same. I personally feel I gained a lot from this session. And there's a lot, as you rightly said. This is an industry or a field where we need to continuously learn, continuously evolve with the technology. Because we are not going to be perpetrators, we are going to be the defenders, right? So to be a defender, to be an auditor, to be an investigator, you've got to know what is actually out there, emerging and trending, right? So thank you once again, Chirath. I also want to thank all of you, all the participants, for taking time to be here, attend this session, and also ask questions and get insights from Chirath. So with that note, I want to thank once again everyone for being here. A few announcements. Those of you who are not members of the ISC2 Colombo chapter, please consider becoming a member, because it is important that you become a member and be part of these sessions, number one. Number two, there are a couple of events which are planned, very early stage as of today. There's one event we are planning with Fortinet, right? So we'll come to you with more details about the Fortinet event. We also have another event coming up with Palo Alto. The details are still awaited. We are in the process of putting things together with those events. The third event, the Women in Cybersecurity, an initiative of the ISC2 Colombo chapter, will be doing an event on cyberbullying on the 23rd of June at 6:30 p.m. So I would like all of you to make time to attend the event and encourage this initiative, because cyberbullying is becoming a social issue and a silent killer. Right? There are people suffering in silence, and we as a chapter, we as professionals, we feel that this is a time for us to get out there and create awareness. We also want to ensure that people learn what to do and what not to do. So we're going to bring in experts to the panel, so who are in the field, who understand what it takes to go through these incidents and how to defend themselves, right? So we're going to hear from people who have handled such situations. And I would like all of you to take the message across to all your friends and make the date, block the date in your calendars and be there and be benefited by attending that event. So with that note, I also want to thank the ISC2 chapter board. We did have Amal from the board attend this event, and then we also have the passport members, Upul Perra and Damit Fernando, board members, passport members. Thank you for being here, and of course all the others who have made time to be here. Thank you so much. So with that note, I want to say goodbye and see you on another event. Take care. Bye-bye.